In trading, knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge in what you're doing can be costly, very costly. So you need a solid foundation of quality market education. Whether you're new to trading or a seasoned veteran looking to add advanced strategies to your arsenal, there's always something to learn and something to improve on. And now you can access the same knowledge that professional traders receive with Market Rebellion's Trading Education. I'm Bill Johnson, Head of Options Education here at Market Rebellion, and we've assembled a comprehensive curriculum based on decades of real trading experience, covering everything you need to know about trading options from beginner to advanced. We go way beyond the nuts and bolts of options theory to teach you how to apply specific trading strategies and the techniques needed to adapt your trades when markets shift. Regardless of your goals, you'll gain access to the education you need with easy-to-consume lessons so you can learn to trade with confidence, enhance your knowledge, and master the practical skills required for market success. So please join us for in-depth trading education only from Market Rebellion. Hey, good afternoon to all of our Market Rebels. It's that time again, Thursday. You know what time that is? Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's get into our topic here. But before we do, quick reminder for everybody. Lunch Crunch Q&A. We talk about topics just like this every week, Tuesday, Thursday, noon Eastern time. Solid hour. Stu does a half an hour on a Thinkorswim breakout on Thursdays.
Yep.
People love it. And it's usually on the topics that we were just talking about. He'll show you how to kind of do applications and
execution, right?
Execution, analysis, whatever questions you might have. But shoot that QR code because we'd love to have you join us for topics just like this every single week. Actually, twice a week.
Twice a week.
But that's where a lot of these topics come from Coach's Corner. So let's start off with Chalk Talk. Buying stock on margin gives you 2-to-1 leverage. And the question we want to ask is, can you beat this with call options? And if so, by how much? How much leverage are you getting? So whenever we talk...
And not get a margin call.
Big advantage.
And we don't like margin calls, do we, Bill?
The problem is that they always happen at A, the best time, or B, the worst time. When do they always happen?
Well, I'm going to go with the worst time.
They will always happen at the worst time when you're at a market bottom and you're going, I just need one more day. The broker's going to say, sorry, you can't have it. We're closing you out now. But the thing is with just for people who might not know the term leverage, in the financial markets, leverage just means that we are borrowing money to buy some asset. And if you own the asset, let's say even a house, and it goes up 10, if you fully paid for it in cash and it goes up 10%, you're up 10%.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put 50% down, you're up 20%. So the more that you borrow, the more that you get this leverage effect. And of course, that cuts both ways. So the thing that we want to ask here, we can go on margin with a broker. We can borrow 50% of the money, buy stock on margin. We can get 2-to-1 leverage. And so what we want to ask is, can we beat this with call options? So our topic today is the leverage of options, but specifically, we're going to focus on more about out of the monies. Why? As you're going to find out, as you move towards out of the money, the leverage gets bigger.
There's a lot of leverage in those puppies.
Exponentially bigger.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about that on Tuesday. We have our UOA, Unusual Options Activity.
Yeah.
What do we see on the UOA trade log?
That's what we see. We see
more than anything else
of these out of the money options.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not only out of the money, the stock could be 300 and they're buying the 380s.
Yeah.
And you're going for, why would you go that
Yeah, they could
far?
be 25, 30, 35% out. They're
easily.
Easily. Yeah.
And so a lot of times we have people ask, why are they doing that when the probability is so low?
And that's a good point. And the answer is, part of the answer is leverage. And we're going to take
Yeah.
a look at what that is. So let's start off with a quick example with buying stock on margin. So if you buy 100 shares, let's say at $100, in the financial markets, now there are some exceptions. I know some people might say, hey, that's not true if you have SMA. Got it. We're going to just stick with the basic
Yeah.
setup. The what's called a Fed call, a federal call, requires that you pay for at least 50%.
Hmm.
That's subject to a $2,000 minimum. So let's say that you deposit $5,000 into your account. This is also assuming you've signed the margin agreement. But with all the paperwork aside, you deposit $5,000, but you own $10,000 worth of stock. So here's the way that it looks like in the kind of behind the scenes with the brokers. They're going to call this MVL, market value long. Long just means you own it. How much? 100 shares at $100. You are long $10,000 worth of stock. But you also put down 5,000. That's your equity, and you borrowed 5,000.
At a
So,
rate.
yep, at a rate.
At a rate, which is running around 10% these days.
It's not. They don't give it away. It's not like
It's not
1%
cheap.
financing with cars, right?
No. It's not cheap. No.
It adds up.
Yeah.
So the formula says market value long. They call it the debit because even though you didn't really spend money for it, you're borrowing it. So you could also call it the loan minus the debit, 5,000, which is again what you're borrowing from the broker. This is what you're going to pay interest on, equals your equity. All right, so it's just market value long minus debit equals your equity. So right now your equity is coming from where? From the 5,000 that you coughed up. Now, watch what happens. Notice also that we have 50% difference here. That's the Fed call. Federal regulations say you got to deposit at least 50%. So watch what happens. Let's say that the stock rises to 11,000. The debit stays roughly the same. We're going to assume that you haven't been paying this down over time. We're going to take a quick snapshot. That is a 10% increase in the stock. And if you own the stock outright, you would be up 10%. But take a look at what happened to your equity. What happened there? 20%.
Looks like you went up $1,000.
You went up two
Like
times.
$5,000. That's 20%.
20%. That's what we call financial leverage. And it came from this. And where is that coming from? 50%. So you can think of that as 0.5. If you take 1 divided by 0.5, you get 2. That's where that 2x is coming from. So that's just a little backdrop there so you understand what financial leverage is and what it does. Now, if we reversed it, what would happen? If we made the stock go to 9,000, you'd be down 20%. So it cuts both ways. Now, with that, let's go back to last week, Stu. I know this is one of probably your favorite topic.
Oh, yeah.
Put call parity. So this is what's called a replicating formula where we're going to make the full value balance, which means we have to account for the bond, so to speak. So we said one formula is long shares of stock plus a put plus a short call equals a bond. We can think of this as a T-bill. Now this bond is actually the exercise price. So if it's a $100 call, this would be we would use 100 for the value of this bond. That would be like our face value of the bond. Now, watch what happens. If we rearrange this for the call, what do we get? Long stock plus long put plus a short bond. What does it mean to short a bond? You've sold it. It's like the government sells bonds, gets cash, owes a little bit more in the future. You have borrowed money. So this is a very simple way to say that you have borrowed money, sold a bond, you bought shares of stock with that borrowed money, and then also bought some insurance on top of it. And if you look at those three pieces, it's exactly what you're doing with a call option. So we just said this is leverage, borrowing money to buy an asset. So we could also say a call option equals levered insured shares. Leverage again comes from borrowing the money to buy the stock. The insurance comes from the long put. So let's, if you remember last week, we looked at a slide. We said that the call, if the call is trading for 438, we had the stock trading for 50, the put trading for 2. The bond, today's value would be what we call the present value, assuming this is a 1-year bond. In other words, you would pay 47.62 and it would mature to 50 in 1 year, just like a bond. And look at that, they balance.
Kind of
So
looks like the conversion.
it looks suspiciously like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what they're saying here is, again, the bond is currently trading for 47.62. You could go buy that bond for 47.62, sit on it for a year, and it matures to 50. And if you do that calculation, 438 over 47.62, you get 5%, which is the interest rate I used in that example. So what we're saying is, okay, we're going to take the other side. We're going to borrow that money. I'm going to borrow 47.62. I'm going to buy the stock currently worth 50, and then I'm also going to shell out another $2 for the insurance. And that is exactly what you're doing with a call.
You know, Bill, I'm dying, but I'm not going to do it here because it's not the place. I'm dying to say, yeah, but if the call is trading for $4.50, is that an edge?
Is that an
Or
edge?
what's the fair value of the
That's
call
a
relative to
whole
the?
different can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
But
But
you know what? It's a good point to at least bring up, because a lot of times this is where traders say, look at that, there's an advantage. I can pay 438 instead of 50 for the stock.
yeah, no,
That is not true. If
no,
just because it's cheaper, what if this was $7? You can't say, well, that's a lot less than 50. Okay, no kidding, that's true, but that would be a horrible price.
terrible, terrible.
And yet people just say, well, it's less. I'm getting $50 stock for $7. No, you're
No,
not. You're overpaying for a bet.
you paid 2.60 or 62 over.
Way over.
Yeah,
Correct. So anyway, little side note again, these are things that we talk about on Tuesday, Thursday.
yeah.
So the point that we just need you to see right now is that when you are buying a call, one of the really beautiful insights is that you are borrowing money without actually borrowing money. You're never going to get a margin call. Why? You've got insurance on it. So you never have to worry about a margin call.
That's
Now,
a huge benefit. That's a
it,
huge benefit.
especially for speculators, and you're looking at some of these things that are trading at 50 or 80% vol that can go up in smoke quick, or down 20 or 30% quickly.
And how about this? You know, if you really are on margin and you're paying 10% or 11 or 12% interest, and you're running with the options model, which is picking up the T-bill rate at 4. I mean, that, there's another negative edge against you.
I
It,
totally agree.
it,
You're not
yeah. So
the
just run with the call and don't do the
the
margin.
big players are going to. We talked about that in our Coaches Corner Live road shows. We just talked about it in Riverwalk,
Hmm.
where the marginal player, somebody like a Goldman Sachs, is going to push that to their risk-free rate,
Yeah.
not what you're getting at your brokers.
No,
So you're
no,
right.
no,
That's
not
another
close.
huge advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might be paying a rate of 5% on this call implicitly. Again, you're not physically borrowing it, but mathematically you are. You do the same thing in a brokerage platform, they're probably going to hit it for 10%.
Yeah.
Big, big, big
And
disadvantage.
then you're way behind the 8 ball.
Way behind.
Where,
So
and that
now that
puts you
we've
right back to the call, which is going to give you the advantage over borrowing using the margin number.
even just from the interest rate, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's look more about the leverage here. We have a $100 call. Mathematically, you are borrowing the $100 strike. Now, again, it's not borrowing. You're not paying interest on it, at least physically, of an actual cash outflow. But mathematically, you are.
It's in the
So
call
here's
price.
it's right. It's embedded in there. It's not
Yeah.
free. But let's say that here's today, you could spend $10,000 for the stock,
Hmm.
right? That was one choice. Or you could buy the call today and do what? Exercise it in 1 year if it's to your advantage. There's another benefit. It's not a requirement. If it's to your advantage, and what do? You spend the 10,000 a year from now. And that means you get to earn interest on it. So we can see very clearly a call option is mathematically a form of borrowing money. So let's look at insured stock.
Unless
We
you
said
unless you spend it on like a used Ferrari, then now what?
we've seen people do that.
Yeah, right.
So we have a call option is our stock plus put. It's an insurance policy attached to the stock. Here's our call graph, our hockey stick. That little bend right there, Stu, that flat part is coming from the insurance. It's the insurance policy that says, nope. As you always like to say, it's like an elevator. Where do you want to get off?
Yeah.
$100. I want to get off the elevator. I don't want to take any losses below there. Can you do it? Yeah. Buy the $100 call. And you will avoid, because if you had the stock, you're going to take the elevator potentially all the way down to zero. That's the risk that you're accepting. So this flat part right here at expiration, it's flat because we have zero deltas, which means we have zero exposure. And it's flat because of the insurance policy. Okay, so now we've shown that call options are borrowed money plus stock. Now the question we want to ask is, how much leverage do they have? So let's say our stock is 100, and we're going to look at the 120 strike. We're going to give it 360 days to expiration or to maturity there for our bond. Volatility will set at 20%. And the question is, how much leverage is there? Now, I just made these numbers up. Pick your own, put them into a pricing model. You're going to see you're going to get the same idea. Not the identical numbers, but the same idea. So here's the inputs that I did. Here's the pricing model. $100 stock, 120 strike, 360 days, 20% vol. And it says that the call option is worth a couple of bucks, put option's worth 22. Okay, why is this call so cheap? Because it's out of the money. It has a low probability of being in the money. And we've talked about that, where the options market is trying to resolve every single option call and put into one of two lines: in the money, out of the money. It's like a panel of judges. When we get to expiration, will you be an in the money option or an out of the money? And every day they're trying to make that decision. So right now they're saying, I kind of have to lean towards out of the money. And because of that, price is very low. But now watch what we could also do. We could borrow the strike. Didn't we just say that's what you're doing? You're borrowing the strike mathematically. So we could walk into a bank, borrow $120. Notice that is more than the stock's value. We could buy the stock for $100. And what do we have left over? $20 that we can almost pay for our insurance policy. So just because you're out of the money, this is not always true, but if you go sufficiently out of the money, which is what I did here, you can actually borrow more than 100% of the stock's value and almost fully cover that insurance value. It gets mind-bending. So for everybody who's wondering why, when we look at, let's say for UOA, that we see 10%, 20%, 50% out of the money, this is your reason. Now, not only is that call option levered, what do they then do, Stu? Buy it 20,000 times or 100,000 times. So it's leverage on top of, or bigger piles of levered assets.
Bill, I'm kind of wondering if anybody is saying that 210 on the call and the 210 over the $20 in the money on the put.
Exactly. We got $20 of interest.
Is that a coincidence, or is that really how it works?
That is really how it works. They are the same thing. Both are worth 210, but you got to cough up the $20 of intrinsic value as well.
Yeah.
For the put. So it's going to trade $20 higher. So now that you understand where the leverage is coming from and why they can have so much leverage, especially for out of the money, that also leads to another question. Is that really how much leverage you need? And that can help you just to understand this basic idea. Do I really need to be that levered?
Yeah. So here's your question, everyone. Your question, well, among many questions, but one question to ask yourself is, so if I want to go further and out of the money, what am I going to get? I'm going to get higher leverage.
Right.
And Bill's saying, do you really want that leverage? Well, you got to trade that off. Well, what are you trading it for? Well, you're trading it for your further down the tail and you're getting lower probabilities.
Lower probabilities. Yeah, we've
And
talked about the EV
that is
triangle. You get,
something you
yep,
got to think about that. You know, you're
yes, you
going to
do.
pay a lower price at the end of the day. Let's call it what it is. It's a lower price in return for a lower probability.
The low
Higher
price is a
leverage, but lower
reflection of it.
probs. Yeah.
But right, but that doesn't mean we're getting nothing for it. This is some
No,
of the, these are some of the questions.
no.
Now, we focused on out of the money, but we can do this for any option. We can figure out just how much leverage there is. So here's a handy little calculation. And in the academic world, we call it the options elasticity. Sometimes you'll hear it called omega in some books. Let's put our stock at 100. And let's say you look on your broker's platform and it shows that the delta is 20. And we say, well, that's the $120 call trading for 210. That's what we just saw on the previous slide.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do is we can say, well, how many effective shares are we owning? Now, yes, the option controls 100, and that's a way to look at it, but it's not really the best mathematical way. What you should say is we are controlling 100 shares, the package, but they're behaving like 20 because of this delta. Their sensitivity is as if it's only 20%. So mathematically, we're really right now controlling, or at least behaving like 20 shares of stock.
Yeah.
So now let's take,
which is your delta.
Right. If we have 20 shares of stock with a delta, I'm sorry, with a price of 210, it's 9.5 times. And what is that telling you? The elasticity says when you do this calculation, we're what's called normalizing it for percentages. If the stock rises 1% from 100 to 101, the call is going to rise to what?
20 cents.
It's going to go 9.5 times. It's going to go 9.5%. So there you go. That's what that leverage is showing you. Now, of course, that's going to change over time. Even if you go to parity, you could have, let's say, an $80 call trading for 20 with a stock at 100, $70 call trading for 30. You do those calculations, they both have delta 1, but because one you're dividing by 20 and one dividing by 30, you get different leverage.
Different levers. Yeah.
Yep, a little bit. So these are some of the things you have to take into account. And again, do you really need that much? Sure, we can lever it up. That's not hard. We just call that a publicly available payoff. Anybody can look at a menu and say, I want that one. That doesn't make you a trading genius because you pulled off a 200% gain on a small move in the stock. That's just a reflection of the leverage that you took.
Bill, I was just going to say, so if I'm getting like 69% on some option that I traded,
it's far more a reflection of the leverage than it is skill. Why? Because everybody who bought that option on that same day at the same time got the same result. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we call it like a hydraulic jack, right? Just because you can pick up a 3,000-pound car with one hand, the impressiveness isn't in the person, it's in the jack. That's where the leverage is. And that's how it is with the option. So that's another good way to use these elasticity measures or leverage measures and say, do I really need to be this levered? Do I need to be Bear Stearns? Right? We know what happened to them. They were known for being highly levered. And remember, it cuts both ways. So buying stock on margin gives you 2-to-1 leverage. Can you beat that with call options, Stu?
I think so.
Easily. Yep, you can easily beat it, but that doesn't mean that they're better.
No.
We have to say what is the fair value, or at least an expected fair value. What am I paying for this benefit, or what am I receiving as cash if I'm the seller relative to the risk? But just to answer the question, are call options levered? Yes.
Yes.
And if you go out of the money, they can get incredibly levered. And I think that's all we have for today. Any last comments there, Stu?
Don't get carried away with the leverage, everyone. It's it's
easy to do.
It's not giving you an edge. It's probably giving you a negative edge.
And what did our friend Stephen Levick say? One of our favorite interviewees.
Know your risk.
I mean, we asked him a question of a little pearl of wisdom that he could leave our audience with, and he just thought for a second. He said, know your risk.
Know your
That
risk.
is a sign of a true professional. 3 words that summarizes everything about trading decisions.
Everything.
And hopefully this gives you a little better way to measure it.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps. We will see many of you in Lunch Crunch. And for everybody else, we'll see you next Thursday. We'll see you then.
Yep. See ya. Take care.